So now in practice action number 3, we're going to focus on our 5 rhythms. So when I play it, I'm going to use the iReal Pro track. You can also use a metronome if you want to. I'm just also going to play it on a single note. You can clap them if you want, play chords, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to use a single note G. All right, so let's start first of all with the triplet rhythm. Triplet, 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 triplet. Notice nice and light in the hand. Right? Notice I'm not pushing down, right? Just kind of like grabbing it with the finger. I also like to vocalize the rhythm as the count off is going on. So when the band is counting off, I'll say triplet, 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 triplet. That way I kind of have the rhythm in my ears before I start to play. All right, so now let's move on to rhythm number 2. Pretty much the same thing as rhythm number 1. We just start with that 8th note triplet in the beginning. A lot of times I will say right? So I would say if it was a D, but in a triplet, you don't really have enough time. You could also just say triplet and then just rest on that trip, right? Because that's where the trip would be, right here on that 8th rest. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to say triplet, 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 triplet. So that'd be triplet, 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 triplet. All right, so let's do that along with the backing track. Here we go. Triplet, 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 triplet. And then you can vocalize it or decide not to vocalize it, right? So if you start to feel comfortable and you're like, I don't really need the vocalization, you can go ahead and you can leave that out. All right, rhythm number 3 now combines triplets along with 8th notes. So we're going to go triplet, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. Triplet, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. Okay, so let's go ahead and play that with the iReal Pro track. Here we go. 2, ready, go. Triplet, triplet, D, ba, D, ba, triplet, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. And sometimes I like to put a measure rest in between. Triplet, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. Just gives you enough time to kind of hear the rhythm. Triplet, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. You can hear the beginning and the end of the rhythm. Triplet, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. 2, try it again. Triplet, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. Okay, good. All right. Rhythm number 4 starts with that 8th rest, right? And then the upbeat. So here I would say, ba, triplet, D, ba, D, ba, ba, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. Here it works out well to say, right in here, okay? Because it's not too quick. All right, so let's play that along with the iReal Pro. 2, here we go. Ba, triplet, D, ba, D, ba, ba, triplet, D, ba, D, ba, ba, triplet, D, ba, D, ba, ba, triplet, D, ba, D, ba. All right, great. And then finally, rhythm number 5, pretty simple here on this one. Da, di, ba, ba, di, ba. So, da, di, ba, ba, di, ba. Da, di, ba, ba, di, ba. Right? So we throw a little in there if you want to. All right, let's do that with the band. Here we go. Da, di, ba, ba, di, ba. Measure rest. Da, di, ba, ba, di, ba. Throw the rest in there just so you can hear the rhythm. Da, di, ba, ba, di, ba. 2, one more time. Da, di, ba, ba, di, ba. All right, awesome job. All right, so now you want to go through and play each of those rhythms, right, along with the backing track or with the metronome. Now, if we want to level this up, what you could do is a couple of things you could do. Number one, go from one rhythm to the next rhythm to the next rhythm, and then you can also do them in random order. So in other words, I'll go through, I'll play rhythm number 1 for measure number 1, I'll play rhythm number 2 for measure number 2, rhythm number 3 for measure number 3, and so on. Or if you want to make it a little bit easier, you could play rhythm number 1 for measure 1, then take a measure off, just kind of rest for a measure. Then in measure 3, play rhythm number 2. Okay, so that means that you would do this. Let's pull the iReal Pro over here so you can see what that looks like. So that would be rhythm number 1, rest right there. Rhythm number 2, rest right there. Rhythm number 3, rest right there. Rhythm number 4, rest. All right, so let's try that, see what that sounds. Here we go. Triplet, triplet. And then rest. Now we're going to do rhythm number 2. Now we're going to do rhythm number 3. And then rhythm number 4. Finally, rhythm number 5. Here we go. Okay. Now, the other way that you can really kind of level this up is play some simple chords in the left hand while doing those rhythms. Okay. So I'll do the same thing again, but I'll play the chords in the left hand as well. And of course, you can also move into playing rhythm after rhythm after rhythm without taking that measure rest in between there. So completely up to you, but those are a couple of different ways in which you can kind of level that rhythm up a bit. All right, so anyway, great job. I'll see you in the next practice action.